evening, cult members, and welcome to Pop Culture Cult. I'm Sean.
I'm Janice.
And welcome, Whovians, to our weekly Doctor Who review show.
Who review?
Who? We did this last week. Who are you? We need a theme song. I'm sure there's people out there who do music and would be willing to do us a Doctor Who show song for the next 2 episodes, whatever.
Right. Next season, which is like in 2050.
They announced this week that they start filming in September,
but it doesn't come out to the end of like 2021.
Yeah. So
we could be dead by then, people.
This is not that show. A couple of pieces of housekeeping. There's a 2-part finale coming in the next 2 weeks.
Yep.
By the way, we're gonna do a little bit of spoiler stuff for this episode because to talk about the episode, we have to talk about who shows up. So we have to talk. So there'll be a little bit of spoilers in this episode.
Right. Go watch the episode first and then come back.
Our Doctor Who reviews are typically pretty spoiler heavy too.
Yeah.
So
what are you gonna do?
But like I was saying before I got sidetracked because I've been drinking tequila all day. There's a 2-part finale starting next week. We are coming home from a camping event late Sunday, so we may or may not be able to do the episode review on Sunday.
Right, we might have to do it Monday.
We might do it Monday. So
we'll see.
If you were waiting with bated breath about what we're going to say and do about the last episode, then you have your info. All right, let's get into this episode. It's called The Haunting of Villa
Diodati.
Diodati. It takes place in 1918,
1870 something.
I don't know, whatever.
It's actually the summer that there was no summer. There was a giant volcano. Can't remember where it was, and it actually this is historically correct.
Right.
It actually blacked out a lot of Europe. And so they ended up not having a summer.
Right.
It was cloudy and there was ash and a lot of people were sick from breathing all the ash and everything.
Yeah.
And so this is that summer, which actually happens to coincide with this party.
With
had.
the Shelleys.
Yeah.
Mary Shelley and her husband.
Not husband.
Her
significant other. Very.
It's very progressive for that time period.
that time period. Yeah.
But they kind of this was the horror kind of ish episode that we keep thinking that has been coming.
Yeah.
We've had some monster episodes and some scary things that happen, but this was a direct we're going to talk about monsters and we're going to have ghosts and we're going to have, all that kind of stuff. And so this was the kind of the creepy horror episode that we always seem to get during the season. We kind of keep trying to throw that label on other episodes that we're getting and then realizing after the fact that it wasn't really that kind of thing. It was more like last week we thought was kind of a little bit more of a horror, but it had the scary elements. Yeah. This was, straight out monsters and stuff like that.
Monsters and ghosts.
Yeah.
However, we now know what the monster is.
Right. So we're going to talk about spoilers, and so it was in the trailers, but we're going to go ahead and say spoilers. So just letting you know that we're going to talk about the Cybermen. Okay. So Jack showed up in episode 3 this season, Captain Jack Harkness, our spirit animal, and he told the fam, the companions, not to give the lone Cyberman what he wants. It was a giant episode-long tease that they built up to, and this was that payoff for that tease.
Right, and they all said, it's the lone Cyberman as soon as he showed up. They were like,
and he was trying to get the collective info of everything that ever is Cybermen.
Yeah, which is like the
I can't remember what they called it.
Yeah,
I can't remember what they called it.
Like
but it's the complete history of the Cybermen.
Yeah, and it kind of looks like Mercury, and Mr. Shelley picked it up out of the water. It was not the One Ring. I screamed out, "It's the One Ring!"
Why was it not the One Ring?
And it kind of like absorbed into him, and so the Cyberman that showed up was trying to, the incomplete Cyberman that showed up was trying to extract that out of him, and in not a nice way.
Yeah.
And the doctor managed to get it. I just need to say, when did the doctor become Spock, and that she can do the Vulcan mind meld now and see?
Well, 10 did it to Donna, and
Did he?
That's how they extracted all of her memories, so she forgot that she was Dr. Donna, and then 11 did it.
Yeah, it was kind of the reverse, I guess.
And 11 did it, and 12 did. Like, it's not a typical thing that happens, but it is a crutch that seems to be happening this season.
Yeah, she's done it
a couple of different
times. Yeah,
and for a writing aspect, it's an easy way to do exposition or to solve something, which I'm totally okay with. That's what the psychic paper is. That's what the
the sonic screwdriver,
that thing that I told you I've been drinking tequila all afternoon. The
thing.
So I'm okay with that, and it allows them to expedite that part of the story.
Yeah.
And so I was like, yeah.
I just didn't remember, and maybe it's just because it's happened a bunch this season that I'm like, since when did this?
It's been sparingly, but it has been used.
Yeah.
But the big thing that has happened this episode is that imagine that the Cybermen got the collective Mercury juju.
Yeah.
That is the collective of everything that they needed, and then went back into the future, and it looks like, at least from the previews, rebuilds the cyber army.
Right.
The
So,
Cyberman
I mean, the doctor had a whole Sophie's choice going on, right? She had to choose between letting him get the Cybertronics, whatever it was, and then that would facilitate him going into the future and rebuilding and wiping out all of humanity, or killing Shelley right then and there, which would then change the future anyway. Right. Potentially not for the better. So, do you go with kind of the immediate thing, or the thing that's going to happen in the future? And she chose the future because then they could just jump the TARDIS and go to the future.
They can at least change that part.
Hopefully.
A little bit better, a little bit easier. It's not easy, but it's at least easier.
They have a chance of changing that versus letting kill children.
That speech is the first time that she snapped at the fam.
Yeah.
Like, properly snapped at the fam.
Yeah.
And every doctor does this at some point in time, where they have that, ultimately, it's my decision, not your decision. And I have to make a decision that is bigger than everybody in this room.
Yeah. Yep.
And as much as emotionally killing one person is probably the right decision, it's on the surface, it's the doctor's decision to say, no, it's not.
Yeah.
And she snapped at Ryan.
Yeah.
And
then told them all, this is a pyramid. Sometimes it's a pyramid, not a flat
and I am
structure.
the summit of the mountain.
Yeah.
Which was an unbelievably awesome line to explain that sometimes I have to be the top of the spear, and I have to be the top of the mountain, poking through the clouds and make the hard decisions.
Yeah.
And it was in a super intense scene that I think may play into a lot of what we've been talking this year about the fam breaking up and something happening and stuff.
Yeah, I kind of thought about that when she was making that speech. And then it's also just, again, last season was so kind of kumbaya, and we're all getting to know each other. And this season has been much more of them kind of learning who the doctor actually
really is. Yeah. She told them, I'm going to take you guys home because Cybermen and humans don't go along very well.
You're gonna get upgraded.
And you're gonna get upgraded. Don't buy. Okay. Tangent. Do not buy the Apple earpod thingies. Have you watched a Doctor Who episode? You're going to get upgraded. Every time I see somebody walk around with this little earbuds in, I'm like, you're going to get upgraded. Anyways,
It's not real.
but her giving them the choice, like not even giving them a choice. I'm taking you home to 2020.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna go take care of this on my own because you don't get along. And Yaz says, I have the coordinates, and Ryan steps up and says, we're going with you, and Graham's like, oh yes we are.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that multiple times this season the doctor's been like, no, you need to go home, or I need to do this thing on my own, or whatever it was. Even in this episode, the doctor ran off to find the Cyberman when he first showed up, and she told everybody to hide and not follow her. And Yaz said, well, technically she said not to follow her. She didn't say anything about going off and doing something
her
else.
own thing, yeah.
So again, with the fam, I'm coming around and calling them the fam, I guess. I don't know. It's still weird. But the fam actually they are making a decision to make their own decisions.
Yeah.
Even if that puts them in peril. And
it kind of shows that they're more confident, more familiar with kind of their what's going on, right? Traveling around in space and time, and they're not just kind of all huddled together and following her around, unsure of what's going on. They're now this season. They're more like, we're gonna go do what we need to do and what it takes to get whatever it is done. So
I've really appreciated the arc that the companions have had this year. About even with somebody like Ryan, who he had the dysplasia, whatever it was last season, where he coordination wise he couldn't do things.
That kind of went out the window, didn't it?
Once he figured out how to ride the bike at the end of the season, he kind of he started that was the snowball effect, the first little pebble to get him going, and now he's been able. But even Ryan has had the confidence in times of stress to jump right in.
Yeah.
Even if it's Graham the first one jumping in, Ryan's right there. And Yaz has sometimes this season been very much she's the intellectual one of the group.
Right.
So she takes a minute to think about it, and then she jumps in and stuff. But with this episode specifically, the idea of using this summer that really nobody really talks about in history. Again, Doctor Who proving that it is a history show that teach you about history and science, at times.
Yep.
And then having that time period where the Shelleys are writing, and that whole writing group and everything that was going on around them, and leaning into that. We've had Jane Austen, we've had Charles Dickens, we've had Shakespeare, we've had other writers that we've dealt with, but we've never really dealt with the Shelleys, which is really kind of cool. And so that was kind of a nice little thing to add on, even though we didn't really do the Mary Shelley Dracula thing, Frankenstein thing, but
so
they didn't do that with Dickens either. They just had Dickens as a character.
No, I mean, I was kind of thinking about the one with Mr. Sweet and the girl who was blind, and Matt Smith, and she kept calling him her monster.
Yeah,
that was sort of Frankenstein-y.
Yeah, it was kind of.
She wasn't obviously Mary Shelley, but they
had that kind of that feel to it.
Yeah, kind of Frankenstein-y. So we need to talk about the statement that Yaz made about.
Yeah. So was it Mary Shelley that she was talking to, or something? There was.
I think it was the other girl.
And I can't. And IMDb won't tell us who the characters were outside of the main four. So, they had a conversation, Yaz, and there was a girl that was trying to break into. I think it might have been Mary. I'm not gonna say it's Mary, but she was trying to break into an office to try to get the letters so she could actually figure out if what he was saying, his feelings for her were, or whatever.
Right.
And they had a moment together where Yaz talked about trying to figure out
someone she
cared for, like the enigma that person is.
Yeah.
And they got kind of cut off by a ghost,
as you do,
to really kind of continue on. So there's a hint there that she has a feelings for somebody that is an enigma to her.
Right. And both of us thought,
Is it Ryan?
Is it Ryan or is it the doctor that she's talking about?
Right.
So
now it's an interesting point because earlier in the season, her and Ryan were kind of going back and forth, and Ryan was asking for Yaz's sister's number.
Right.
And Yaz was kind of dragging her feet about giving him her number.
Right.
So that it was kind of a secondhand conversation like friends would have with each other.
Yeah.
Kind of throw away like the second or third episode this season. But there was a look that was kind of thrown in there at that point in time. And then there's been kind of other hints that maybe Yaz has feelings for Ryan, and Ryan is kind of, I won't say emotionally clueless, but is so wrapped up in what's going on that he doesn't really recognize that there's something there with Yaz.
That's fair.
Or because it's this iteration of the Doctor, it could be she has feelings for the Doctor directly.
And they could be platonic, or they could be something else.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, it could totally be that they care about the Doctor, as all companions have, and they are coming to the realization that there is way more to the Doctor than what they thought they knew from their experiences last season, right?
Yeah.
Again, that kind of, kumbaya, we're all having a great time. They think they know who she is, and now this season, she's gotten a little darker, a little sterner, and they don't actually know who she is.
Yeah, that's probably what it is. I want them to have that girl relationship, like whatever that ends up being. If it's they did that last season with Bill, right? Bill was lesbian, right?
So they've been there.
And the first person to ever kiss the Doctor was Jack.
Right.
So
that's true.
So
that's true. The
first person in history to actually ever kiss the Doctor was a guy.
Yeah.
And he kissed Eccleston.
Yeah.
Happy birthday to Christopher Eccleston today, by the way. We can go do a whole diatribe on Gallifrey 1 that happened this weekend. But yeah, that idea, I'd like to have that. We had Rose and 10, and we had hints at times with Amy had the hots for 11, but it was
when it came down to it, and she had to
pick.
Between,
she picked Rory.
She picked Rory,
right? But Capaldi.
No, not Capaldi. Matt Smith and the Impossible Girl. I can't think of her name.
Oh, Clara.
Clara. Yeah, she definitely had a crush.
Yes,
on
but
him.
He didn't the other way.
Right, but he even phoned her and said, take care of this.
To take care of the
she
new
was like, "You're not
and
my
stuff
doctor,"
like that.
and so it's always happened.
There's always that hint that there's something there, but I really like, we get River. You get the whole River story arc throughout the modern Doctor, and I like having that. I'm just envisioning Yaz in 13 having a more than just friendship relationship with each other, and then River showing up. Like it would be like a really cool, fun episode.
I don't see the Doctor ever really egging on a relationship with a companion. Like sometimes it happens, but they
can't be together.
The Doctor is always like, this isn't going to work. But to have
to have that kind of story arc.
Yeah, that
would be a lot of fun.
That would be fun to have River show up and then them go like, wait, what?
And it's River, so she would be down for it. Because there's the joke where she went and had they went to the last Christmas festival on the frozen Thames in 1880, or she tells about the story, and then somebody says, wasn't there 2 doctors there at that time? She's like, oh, that was a different birthday, so it's like that kind of joke, like but just the idea of they're not going to do it, and they're not going to finish it out with 2 episodes left this year, but if you're going to leave it with what it looks like right now, which is something we've been talking about, where we're going to lose 1, 2, or 3 of the companions. They've laid the groundwork for it to be Yaz saying, I can't deal with this. I want to be with Ryan. Ryan, do you want to be with me or do this? We can stay and be together and live a life. Because even last episode, Ryan talked about how everybody's growing differently than they are at home.
Well, I've heard rumors that somebody leaves. They've kind of alluded to dying, but nobody said dying,
right.
But that, it will be heartbreaking. And so I kind of feel like one of the companions is going to leave. Maybe Graham's cancer comes back, maybe something like that. But I have heard rumors that the season finale is going to be
Oh yeah, no, they're going to break us this year.
Yeah.
Like they didn't do it last year, but they're going to break us this year. They're going to do a proper on just something. And
so it looks like it's the invasion of Cybermen that they're going to have to
in what it looks like modern times, or shortly,
maybe a little bit
in the future, but it looks very much that way. My one issue with the possibility of having one of the companions die, I don't want them dying to become or being killed off as a Cyberman. We've done that a couple of times.
Yeah, and he didn't like the Danny Pink.
I've come around on liking Danny Pink. I don't like the way he left. I don't like the whole you just randomly kill off a major character's major part of their life.
Welcome to British television.
Right.
Those of us who watch all Downton Abbey and Broadchurch, they just kill people off.
But they did it with Bill, and they've done it a couple different times where the main companion is taken over by a Cyberman or turned into a Cyberman or whatever. And I just don't want that story arc. Now, if it's Graham finding out at the beginning of the episode next week that the cancer is back and there's nothing he can do about it, and the awkwardness, I want to talk about that for 2. We're going to have a lot to talk about this week. But Graham decides to go out in a blaze of glory and blows up the prime Cyberman. Like that story, like that would be cool. I don't want it, but that would be a cool thing. The one thing I would do want to talk about, we didn't talk about last week, was we did talk about a little bit, was the Graham confessing to the doctor about the cancer.
Which that whole thing blew up.
Totally blew up on social media because social media and the internet. People complained that it was very insensitive the way that they handled that conversation. And from my point of view, and I think you're going to agree with this, there is no easy way to tell somebody who's gone through cancer that they're going to be okay. Like it's always going to be hanging over their head, always.
Right. Well, and the internet took Graham's side. Fine, that's fine.
Yeah.
But being somebody on the doctor's side who's like, I don't even know what to say to you. Like, it's not insensitive.
Right.
It's I truly don't know what to say.
Right.
And
we are living this currently.
Yeah.
We are living this currently.
Yeah.
We have somebody who's had their cancer come back. And there's nothing you can say to them. There's nothing you can say to them.
Right. It's not going to make it any better.
I'm not a doctor. I'm not a nurse. I'm not done, and I'm not well versed in the treatments of this cancer. And so I don't know what to say to you other than I love you and I'll hold you and here's a cocktail and we'll make you dinner and we'll take your husband off and like have him have a free night or something,
right. But I mean, that's kind of not what they were saying. Like, she is saying that she's the socially awkward and
yeah,
I
right.
get that. He is not socially awkward. I get that. I don't honestly know what to say,
Right.
And she was trying to be the other side. She was trying to be that side of it. And Graham was the, I have this problem, and the internet took his side,
Right.
basically.
Right.
And whatever. He came out, Chris, Chipnall came out and said, sorry, that wasn't our intention, was to be insensitive. They were trying to shine a light on the fact that not everybody knows what to say or do, and just because we're a TV show doesn't mean we're always going to have the right thing to say at the right moment.
Totally. And I found that scene last week one of the most refreshing things I've seen in a long time on TV.
Yeah.
It was the most real.
Way more real, yeah.
It was the most real things in a sci-fi show about time travel. Like, it was one of the most real scenes when somebody that you care about comes to you and says, I've had this in the past, I don't know what to do. And the person who received that information didn't know what to say.
Right.
That's like the most real thing like goes on every
Life
day.
isn't scripted.
Right.
Shocker.
It's amazing. I'd forgotten that I wanted to talk about that, so when we started I didn't bring it up, but we could have done that as a whole separate episode, but I don't care, whatever. So overall this was another really good episode. Much better. I won't say much better, but better than last week's kind of filler episode. This was not a filler episode.
Well, this one's leading up to the next
This was
two,
the prelude
so you needed
episode.
to pay attention. Yeah.
This is the prelude.
Yep.
Prelude episode to what's coming. And somebody gonna die.
Something is going to happen.
Something is going to happen, and I'm pretty sure we're going to cry.
Probably.
It's been a while since Doctor Who has made us cry, so.
Husbands of River Song.
I almost cursed. Love that episode. Still cry every time. So that is our thoughts on this week's episode called The Villa of something or other. The Haunting of Villa
Diodati.
Thank you, Diodati. What did you guys think of this episode? Let us know in the comments. Be nice, but also let us know what you think is going to happen here in the two-part finale. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications, for all that stuff. If you're on the podcast feed, follow us there. Follow us for all kinds of new stuff. Like I said, we're going to be gone over the next week, so our output isn't going to be as much, but once we get back,
right. If we don't get it out next Sunday, it'll be Monday.
Monday. So that is it. And then follow us on all the social media stuff for all kinds of updates. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all that jazz. I've been posting a whole bunch of stuff today. Till next time, Whovians, if we don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.